Hola. Good evening. Hola, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Where's everybody? Welcome to RJH live stream on Friday, the 16th of July 2021. Trust you're all well and coping with the heat. Been a very, very warm one again today. So how are you all doing with the heat? It's been a bit warm, hasn't it? Yeah. Tonight's live stream is, some requests really, and it is about bike maintenance. Yeah, so I just thought I'd do one for bike maintenance, third live stream of the week. Yep. So live stream tonight is about bike maintenance. You may pick up some tips. You may be able to help us out. Okay, so that is the format of tonight. So welcome. Congrats to those that have been passing again this week. Had a few good passes. Module 1s, Module 2s. We've had some great CBT trainees all week. And tasters, starting off tasters before CBT. So introducing them into this fantastic world of motorcycling. So well done to everybody that's been along and enjoyed themselves. It has been a blast and the weather has been fantastic. So long may it continue. I think we're getting a heat wave. I think they're saying we're going to have 3 or 4 days of heat wave. I think that's pretty good, isn't it? So yeah, so Friday, 16th of July, 2021. And this is number 3 of our live streams this week. So this is the third live stream this week. So that's not bad, is it? Module 1 on Tuesday, Module 2 on Thursday, and today is bike maintenance, which was requested. Last week somebody mentioned about doing something about bike maintenance. I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. I could do something. Although I'm still playing around with the OBS, so I can't put graphics up to show you what. But I'm still playing around with that. As I said, watch the videos over the next few weeks, and as I get a bit of experience and improve my knowledge on it, that'll be what I'll be aiming to achieve. So yeah, nothing too stressful tonight about bike maintenance. I suppose another thing is that we do quite a lot of CBTs, and when the CBT pupils come back to show us their bikes, you can see how they're neglecting the bikes and not doing any checks on them. So the standard and the road safety of these bikes deteriorates, and it doesn't take much to keep on top of it. So that's what we're aiming to do, is give a few tips in and see how we go. But also we can announce some what we're planning to do regarding bike maintenance as we go through. So that's a sort of topic. It's not going to be a long one tonight. I would say I'll probably let it go for about an hour. So we'll look at about an hour. So let's see who we've got on then. Sean Wright, good evening. Dave Smith, good evening. Wayne, good evening. Hooley, Dave, Fritz 637, that's a new name, I think. Jerry, good evening. Paul, good evening. Bry, good evening. Scott, good evening. Mr. Scott Jones, good evening. Welcome to the live feed. Now, for those that don't know, Scott is one of our new instructors. Just come through the training program. Second day in, I think he had CBTs yesterday, CBTs today. So Scott is just starting his journey into this fantastic world of teaching trainees. Yeah, Dave's on the booze already. See them texts flying around now after a few pints, eh? Yeah, you'll be asleep before we finish the live feed, Dave. Yeah, pint of Stella in the sunshine and you'll be on your back. So yeah. So welcome everybody. Let's see what we can do tonight. So yeah, just about 12 people there watching. 4 people have liked the video. So remember, ladies and gents, please do like the video. It really does help with the YouTube algorithms. Good evening, Lisa. Attended a few, Rob. Pass your mod 2 on Tuesday. Your online lessons really helped. Now have a versus 652 2019 and loving it. That is the news that we like to hear. Where are you based? Where did you pass for it? Let us know. But yeah, messages coming through every day regarding people benefiting from the videos up and down the country. And, you know, it really is, from my point of view, very worthwhile and makes me want to make more videos. So that is the sort of positive encouragement that we need. Bride Pass down in Devon. That is a fantastic result. And you should, Peterborough, Cam Rider, yeah, good, one of the biggest ATBs in the country, Cam Rider. Yeah, so that is fantastic news. And, you know, remember, when you're passing your test, everybody, your learning starts now. Okay, your learning starts now. So let's think about bike maintenance. I think I've done all the congrats. Yeah, we'll run that ongoing competition for a free CBT, £199. And remember, the free CBT for £199. So as soon as we get 100 people watching the live stream at one go, and it might take a few months to build that up, I haven't got a problem. But when we do get up to 100 people viewing at once, I will throw in the question. First correct answer wins a free CBT, and that is worth £199. At the moment, it is. You can use it in RJH Wigan, RJH Manchester, RJH Northwich. But we are actively looking at opening a couple more schools as we speak. Got a few good leads as well. So do keep tuned in. Do keep tuned in, because we've got a couple of quite encouraging leads that we will be taking the negotiations to the next level, and let's see how we go. So there may be more sites that you can get that free CBT. Yeah, so bike maintenance, it was requested last week. Somebody requested something about bike maintenance last week, so we do listen to our audience, and we do think, well, okay, you know, because I do rabbit on about module 1, module 2, advanced instructor training and stuff like that. So having another subject, and yeah, it's going to be pretty tame, and I am looking at introducing a different piece of software that I can put the YouTube link into this software, and I can then start playing around with different graphics and videos in this video live stream and pictures in. But that's something I've got to develop my knowledge on. So for now, it's just going to be me talking to you again. Dave, I'm glad Friday is over, Lisa, but of course, seeing you has made my Friday. Dave, you're a bloody flatterer, you. Hey, you are a flatterer. So anyway, you just keep watching and contributing, mate, and then we do look forward to seeing you in one of our sites soon. Right, maintenance. So as I said, see what we tend to find. I mean, this is my experience. You can sort of come in and tell me if it's if you see it any differently. But the way I see it through my trainee, I mean, I'm not a mechanic. I never have been. I love riding bikes, but I don't like cleaning my bikes. I don't like doing the maintenance on my bike. And Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't, but I don't put it as a priority. So it's not on my priority list. I'd rather, unfortunately, or fortunately, but it's just how I am, I'd rather pay somebody to do the job for me. And I know at the end it's done properly. But some of the work that I have done on the bikes, I've put the links in the description below. So puncture repairs, checking your tyres, checking your chains. I've got a few links of videos below, so do watch them. But what I find is that if I look at a CBT pupil that comes in that's never ridden a bike, and they go away and they buy a little 50cc, or they go and buy their 125, the stuff we cover on a CBT is really the basic, and it is really valuable stuff. We use best cops, and it is valuable information to encourage that rider to go on and keep up with his daily checks and his weekly checks. But unfortunately, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it goes in this one ear and it comes out of this other ear, and they don't do anything with it. And that's sort of, I can justify saying that because when they come back to see us, the chain's hanging down, the chain's rusted up, and you can hear it, and you can see their tire pressure down because the tire, you can tell visually the tire pressure down when they're riding it, and they can't push the bike into the parking bay in the yard because it's too heavy. And the indicator, the bulbs, things like that. So you do tell them this really, really valuable information in the CBT and element B, bike maintenance, daily checks, weekly checks, but it goes in here and out of there, I would say 9 times out of 10. Then, of course, we spend maybe up to a week. We spend up to a week, over a few weeks, getting these ladies and gents up to the full license. And that's when things start to change slightly. Now, I think I can safely say it's more to do because it's a bigger investment. So they can maybe spend £5,000, £7,000, some people £10,000. Some people go off and buy a £15,000 bike. So, of course, they're more likely to be looking after these bikes, whether that's themselves or they're more willing to go and get it serviced and looked after at a garage, whereas the learner legal market doesn't seem to, as I said, 9 times out of 10 in and out of here. Full licenses, it's a different mindset completely. And I think I'm comfortable in claiming that. So that is another reason I wanted to do a sort of little bit of a live stream on bike maintenance, some top tips, because people can play it back. But also, what we are looking at doing is introducing some maintenance courses. I'm just waiting for Graham, our manager in Manchester, to liaise with our local bike shop and come up with something. The way I can see it is a 6-week maintenance course. It will have a price. It'll have a weekly 3-hour. This is how I would see it: a weekly 3-hour over 6 weeks, so 18 hours. But an introduction, then moving on to simple and a little bit more detail, a little more. So, overall, the 6 weeks, being able to probably, change your chain and sprockets, change your oil, change your brake pads, and maintain your brakes, things like that. That's what we are looking at introducing, not only for our own customers, but we'll market it out so people from anywhere in the Northwest could come along and attend. So that's quite exciting. So before I go on to our sort of best cops, then let's just see where we're up to. See who's joined in. There's not much more there. AW8, good evening. Dave, daily walk round, checks, lights, so there's brakes. Yeah, any defects, record and fix. It's if it's unsafe, gov. Yeah, don't ride it. That's absolutely. I mean, we have check sheets on our bikes. So the fleet of bikes, we've got about 40 bikes in all now. We have a fleet. Every time that bike is used on a daily basis, as a bit of a check over, make sure that everything is satisfactory. If it's not, it's highlighted to need attention. If it's unsafe, the key gets put into a box, which is a do not ride box, so that bike cannot be used until it's been rectified. So we do have that in place at our bike school. That said, our bikes are only they're under 5 years old, our bikes, so not a great deal goes wrong with them. So, Bri, you've got a neighbour who is a mechanic, does all your small jobs in return for storing his other bike in my garage. Fantastic arrangement. But that's the sort of guy, that's the sort of neighbour that you can buddy up with and sort of watch and assist and pick up those skills yourself. So as time goes on, your neighbour might not be there for whatever reason. And it's something then that you've picked up some skills and things to be able to do yourself. Because bikes are a little bit easier to maintain than cars, and generally a lot people will have a go at it yourself. So it's not a big problem. You can sort of self-learn a lot. Yeah, so we'll come on to the chain, Fritz, but I have got a link in the description below of how I looked after my chain, and hopefully that'll help. But I will come on to that in a minute anyway. So let's start with what we teach, and it is quite simple. It is what we teach, and that is best cops. So we teach best cops, daily checks and weekly checks. So let's see then. It's an acronym. So B stands for something, E. So can anybody then tell me what best cops is an acronym for? I'll give you 5 minutes there. You can have a little think. What is best cops an acronym for? Anybody? Any takers? Best cops is an acronym for what? Oh, what we got then? Wayne. Brakes. Lisa, brakes. Yes, brakes, electrics, suspension, tyres is best. Yeah, that'll do. Best, that'll do, Wayne. Yeah, for best. So what's cops? So what is cops? I thought Mr. Smith would have come in there. I think he's had that beer's gone to his head. It's knocked him out. He's having a little nap. Here he is. Chain, oil, petrol, steering, cops. Mr. Smith, you need to be a bike instructor. Hey, Dave Smith needs to be a bike instructor. He's got the answers. So yeah, good. Well done, Lisa and Wayne there. So you got brakes, electric, suspension, tyres for best, and then cops is chain oil, petrol, steering. That is what we use on the CBT Blooming hell, he's having a bloody beer and then he's getting an ice cream. Okay, cool, flipping hell. How the other half live, innit? He's having a beer and an ice cream. Whew. Right, so on a daily basis, then we would teach brakes. So, what would you all want to check on a daily basis for your brakes? So, remember, on a daily basis, ladies and gents, you've got busy lives. You got, you want to get going to work wherever you go, and you don't want to be spending an hour on the bike, do you? So, it's checks that you can take 5 or 10 minutes. But we recommend daily checks and then weekly checks. So on a daily check, what would you be looking for on your brakes? So, yeah, fluids. Check hoses not perished. Yeah, these are good answers. Very good answers. Brake pads not too worn on the brakes work. Right, very good. Yeah, get a bloody whip round and get me a cornetto. I'm feeling very neglected, poor and neglected here when you're having a beer and an ice cream. Discs, roll the bike and test brakes. Poor Sugden, well done. So what I would say then, on a daily basis, and this you could do because we all really are very busy. And if you say to somebody what checks you do on your bike on a daily basis, they'll tell you they do things, but I know they don't do things. They don't do it because it takes too long. Well, you don't want to be spending an hour on your bike before you go to work in the morning. You don't need to do that. But you need to make sure your brakes work. So where do you keep the bike? Do you keep it around the back of the house? Do you keep it down the alley? Do you keep it in the shed, or do you keep it in the garage? So wherever you keep your bike, push it to where you go to get on it, to get going. So push it and apply your brakes. And the sort of things you want to be looking for is something that feels different to what it was the day before. Is it make sure it's not seized, make sure it's not sticking, listen to the sound and use your senses. Oh, that's different. But ultimately, your brakes want to be able to stop your bike, your front of your back, stop and not seize up. So release them and then push a little bit further to make sure they're not sticking. And that really is sufficient on a daily basis. Okay. So brakes on a daily basis, just check them that they're stopping, not sticking, and everything sounds as it feels and sounds as it normally does. I'm not saying the fluid side of things and the reservoirs and checking all those, the brake pads, I'm not saying that's wrong, but that's probably too much on a daily basis. What you can do is have a little visual at the floor and the pipes and see if there was any leak, and you would certainly notice it visually. But don't go looking for it, but it should stand out. So daily, just looking at the effectiveness of the brakes. Okay. We'll go on to more detail on the brakes for a weekly check. So yeah, some good answers there. Well done. Feeling the lever, not too soft, spongily yet. Oh, here he goes again. White chocolate cookie, Magnum if you're quick. Yeah, have this on me. Thank you very much. Yeah. Bikes in a garage that has an alarm linked to house. Good. Should not feel spongy when applied. No. Good evening, nearsighted from the far side. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the live stream. 15 people watching, ladies and gents, only 7 likes. So does that mean that nobody likes this live stream? If you like the live stream, please press that liked button. It does help. Going on a 1,000-mile bike ride starting tomorrow for 3 days. Just gone through everything. Fantastic. It's a nice trip, that, isn't it? 1,000 miles over 3 days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well done. Right, so brakes. Let's move on then to our electrics. Brakes, electrics. So what electrics would you check on a weekly basis? Sorry, on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, what electrics would you check? Lights, indicators, brake light. Lights, yeah. What would you check? You suppose your ignition, your battery, wouldn't it? You want your battery to start. Your horn, bulbs, yeah. Brake light wants to be activated from the front brake or the back brake. What other electrics? What you want? Your number plate. You got a little light that illuminates your number plate, haven't you? So yeah, check them all. And if they're not working, yeah, horn only in between legal hours. So what are those legal hours then? So what are the legal hours? So yeah, if you're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you want to check it, would you? What are the legal hours? Oh, some good, some different ones coming up, innit? There's some, there's two different ones there. Yeah, rusty on this one, yes. What is the legal hours then? Oh, there's quite a few different ones. We've got a 7 to 11:30. Looks like a theory test question with the 4 different answers. 7 to 23:30, 7 to 11:30, 7 to 11, 7 to 10, 7:30 to 11. There's quite a mixture there, isn't it? Quite a mixture there. Somebody go and Google it. What is the correct answer then? It's a warm one tonight, isn't it? It is a warm one. This is a theory test question. It's quite a common. We do this one on element B. But the correct answer, and it's quoted here as in the highway code, it is illegal to use a horn on a moving vehicle on a restricted road, basically a road that has street lights and a 30-mile-per-hour limit between the times of 11:30 p.m. and 7 a.m. Yeah, so good. So think about that one. Oh, who's this? This is a new one. Balstini. Hi, new beginner biker here from Finland. Listening in the background and collecting some tips. Fantastic. First time to the channel. And that's good. So welcome to World of Biking. Please do like the live streams. Subscribe to the channel. We do live streams every week. Been doing them for I think about 20 weeks now. I think there's quite a few live streams, but we've got over 300 videos on this channel, all aimed at people coming in and learning and so on. So enjoy some of the videos and yeah, get some questions if you need. But yeah, nice to have somebody from Finland listening in. In 5 seconds, what's the prize? What's the prize in 5 seconds? So electrics. Now, what if those aren't working? What if your indicator's not working and you check them in the morning? What if your indicator wasn't working? You had to get to work. What would you do? What if you brake? What if it was early morning? It was a bit dark and you need to get to work. What do you do if your headlight bulb had gone? I know what I would do. I wouldn't go on my bike if any of it was working. If it wasn't working, I'd wait. Because if you're none of your electrics, you're going to have problems, aren't you? Okay, so hand signals. You could do hand signals for your indicators. Yes, you could. Make sure you're okay with your hand signals. A lot of people won't know, but yeah, hand signals could do that, couldn't you? What about your lights? So if your lights weren't working, you wouldn't want to. So it is worth checking the lights, electrics every day. Yeah, it is daily check. Okay, S, steering. Was it steering or suspension? It was. Who came up with that at the beginning? It was Wayne, wasn't it? Brakes, electrics, suspension. So suspension. What suspension then? But what suspension checks would you look at on a daily basis? Mike, don't want to derail the video, Rob. Not a problem, mate. But interested in your thoughts on electric bikes. I think it may draw more people to biking. Yeah, well, I think it's the future. I do think it's the future. I think something came out in there was government announcement about motorcycle, petrol motorcycle 2040, was it? Don't quote me on that. I'm sure I saw something, but yeah, it is coming. We have just under about 8% of our bike fleets are electric. So all the best, nearsighted. Yeah, electric bikes are the future. It will happen. So it's the biggest growth in bikes at the moment, I think, is electric bikes. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. One thing that is sort of holding me back from more at the moment, I think, is the battery life. But yeah, I'm sure it's going to progress at a very fast rate. Roll bike and apply front brake. Suspension should return to normal position. Absolutely. So suspension, yeah. We like to look at the on the suspension, the fork seals, making sure a fork seal hasn't popped, because if you get any fluid on that, where the fork, don't know what's it called, the fork sanction, the chrome, the clear piece. And if you get in where it joins into the fork, the mounting, the actual fork, and you get a little a sort of dust cover. But if there's any fluid that comes out, it means the seal's more than likely popped. And with the condition of the roads, it's quite a common thing. Now, if the fork seal pops, you don't want to get the oil on your brakes and things, so it needs sorting straight away. But yeah. So check the suspension for any leaks, make sure that it returns to its original position. And also, what else on the suspension? More the steering, we'll cover that on the steering. But yeah, so suspension is important, and you can do that pushing the bike out in the morning. It would take a few minutes, wouldn't it? So brakes, electrics, suspension. Brakes, electrics, suspension. So what is T? Tyres. Tyres, yeah, Dave, make sure there is no wear in springs and that they are not cracked or split. Yes. And I think particularly on some of the older bikes, that is a bit more common, isn't it? If they've been exposed to the weather. Sit on the rear shock correctly, carrying a passenger, increase preload if possible. Yes. So with regards to that, check your manual. Yeah, so you should get some advice for your specific bike in the owner's manual. Right, let's move on to tyres then. So what are we looking for on a daily basis with tyres? daily basis on tyres. Tread cuts, yeah, 1 millimeter tread across 3/4 of the breadth of the tyre with no visible cuts or bulges. Yeah. So I suppose the first thing is when you push your bike out from where you're keeping it, you're going to feel if it's pressure's gone into you. You're going to feel that the tyre's lost some air because it'll feel heavy. So and also you can just kick the tyres as well. Make sure they haven't gone down. So you want to check that pressure. Just a quick check on the pressure daily. But yeah, you want to check visually then, Wayne, your tread, have a visual and your cuts, bulges, general condition. And that's sufficient on a daily basis. You don't want to go into sort of tread depths, gauges and pressure monitors and stuff on a daily, unless you have to, but keep that for your weekly. But daily, you can generally, as you're pushing it out, check all of that. It takes a few minutes. 5 years old, maximum ideally 1 millimeter minimum, said, yeah, no bumps, tears, good. Check for bulges, nails, screws, foreign bodies, yes, very important. And I do have a great video regarding tyres in the description below. I've got 2 videos actually. I've got a video of how to check your tyres, what you're looking for, and pressure, and how to do your pressure and stuff like that. And I've got another video in the description below about repairing a puncture. So repairing a puncture doesn't take too long and it's relatively easy. Okay, so check those videos out. So let's move on. That's best brakes, electric steering, tyres. Let's move on then to COPS, which is chain, oil, petrol, and steering. Yeah, make sure there's no nails or stones in the tyres. Yeah, any foreign bodies, you need to address that. Okay, so what about chain? What are we looking for then on our chains, ladies and gentlemen? What are we looking for on our chains? And I do have another good video of how to look after your chain and adjust your chain in the description below. There's some good little videos in there actually. Weighing, yeah, playing the chain. So you want the correct tension, which you can look at. And tension is the free play of the chain, if it's too loose or if it's too tight. And on the swing arm, there's generally a little sticker that tells you how much free play that is recommended. If you haven't got that on the swing arm, refer to your owner's manual again. But tension is really, really important. If it's too loose, there's a chance that it could come off, and you can hear it sounds horrible. If the chain is too tight, then there's a chance that it could snap. So the chain is a really important thing to look after on a daily basis. I would say that I would be looking at lubrication. So on a daily basis, just make sure that it's not dried out. So keep the chain well lubricated. But play in the chain tension, rear wheel alignment, and all the tight spots, all these other things that we do want to look at on a chain, I would save for a weekly check. Okay. So daily on a chain, oil. So on a daily basis, oil. So do we need to get the dipstick out and check the oil? Do we need to check the oil level for the high, minimum, maximum. Do we need to check the brake fluid reservoirs? I would say that's more on a weekly basis. You don't want to be checking, unless your bike burns oil. It burns up, but you shouldn't really want to be checking the oil every day. That's probably unlikely. But yes, Wayne, you do want to be checking oil drops underneath the bike where you've left it for any period of time, because that could indicate that something needs to be looked at. Yeah, so you do get to know if your bike is a oil burner or a guzzler. Yeah, so I'm not saying that you wouldn't check it on a daily basis, but it's more unlikely. But you've got to check, based on your bike and the experience that you know about that bike. Petrol, OP, petrol. So petrol gauges not always reliable. So do look at visually checking in the tank, giving it a shake. But obviously you do need petrol before you go on your journey. Rob, is it worth giving brief pointers for dealing with a rear wheel lockup? And yeah, so what would cause your rear wheel lockup? So what is caused it? Smell of petrol, yeah. Smell of petrol. So, use your senses. Oh, well, that's a funny smell this morning. It smells very. So where's that coming from? Might be just as something as simple as you spilled a bit of petrol when you were filling it or something the day before or something. Yeah, so if your rear wheel, I suppose if your rear wheel is locking up, is it caused by mechanical? Is it a mechanical? Well, yeah, seized engine of a mangled chain. Well, yeah, the bike's going to stop, isn't it? But it's how you deal with that. That's it's quite an extreme situation. Dave Smith, I average 160 miles to a 13-litre tank. Fill it up once a month. Not bad going. Yeah, not bad going, that, is it? What bike is that on, Dave? What is that on? So Kawasaki 125, yeah, that's good. Well done. Yeah, I mean, if you get a seized brakes or a chain issue on a wheel locking up, you're just going to have to deal with it as best you can, aren't you? So, try and keep if you're locking up, depending on what your speed you're going as well, doesn't it? So if you're going, I mean, if you're on a bigger bike, you're going to possibly going a bit faster, but if you want to learn illegal, you might not be going so fast. But you just got to try and get that under control as safely as you can. Try and keep the bike straight. That's what I would say. But yeah, just try and keep calm. Yeah, that's good. Good going, YSF. I mean, currently at the moment, I'm riding the Honda CB500X. And according to my gauge on the clock, I'm getting just over 90 miles to the gallon. I've never ever had that before in my life. I mean, it's CB500X, and I'm getting 90 to the gallon. And the stats on the internet, if you look at it, is 69 miles to the gallon, but I'm getting 90. But yeah, so petrol, yeah. Yeah, 100 miles on £2.50. Those were the good old days. The good old days. So yeah, make sure you got petrol in it. The final S would be steering. So what would you want to be looking at, ladies and gents, on steering then on a daily basis? What would you be looking at on your steering on a daily basis? Well, Wayne, when you're in on Sunday, you'll see Graham. I'm not in on Sunday, so I don't see it. But when you're in on Sunday, you'll see Graham's got we've got a couple of them for the instructors, the Honda CB500X. It's about £5,500. I'll tell you what, I haven't even done a review on it yet, but I absolutely am in love with this Honda CB500X. It's a lovely bike. It's easy to ride, and it's the economy. Ride this I ride my Honda CB1000 to work, and it gets filled up twice a week. And this one I'm using every day, teaching everything. I'm filling it up twice a week. The economy on it is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so on a daily basis, you just want to make sure that the handlebars are turning lock to lock. You do that when you're pushing it out of the garage, and that, apply your front brake and the steering head isn't knocking. The head bearings have not gone. Yeah, no cables. Making sure it's free. Handlebars turn freely with no play or tension. Good. Shocks. Yeah, cables. Good. So, yes, I did get your email, Mr. Junior 786. I did get your email, so watch out for that post. It will be sent. I've not sent it today because I've been absolutely rammed. And there's another lad that won last night, so they will be on the way to you. Okay. So let's hope you get this one. But yes, I did get your email, mate. So they're daily checks. Let's think about weekly then. So what would we want to then maybe, on a Sunday morning, you got a few hours spare, and I'm going to get this one in. I'm going to put this one in now, and I'm going to get it out there because it's one that I like to get out there at the beginning. Okay, so once a week. I don't do this myself because somebody comes and washes all the bikes and does them for us. But once a week, remember this. It's a bit corny. So, yeah, you can let me know what you think. But a clean machine is a seen machine. So a clean machine is a seen machine. So give it a good wash, get it all shiny, get the chrome shiny, get the lights clean. A clean machine is a seen machine. And whilst you're cleaning your machine, you can see if anything's come loose, if anything needs a bit of attention, then that's a good weekly thing to get into the habit of doing. All right. Hey, now he's getting naughty, polishing his helmet. That's too much detail, that. But you do need to keep the bike clean. Now, it's a classic, this, and that goes around the bike schools. That does AW8, so don't worry about it, mate. That's one of the things that goes around. So what would we be looking at then on brakes? So let's think about brakes on a weekly basis. What do we look at on brakes for a weekly basis? Because we've checked them daily, they're working, but that's not enough, is it? It's not enough just to see if they're working. What is it? What's the saying? They say prevention is better than cure. Yeah, prevention is better than cure. Meat on pads. That's a good way of saying it. Yeah. Pads, discs damaged. Check the minimum left. Yeah. Now a lot of people don't know about the pads. So on a disc brake, a disc brake is different to a drum brake, and there's still some drum brakes on smaller bikes. But the discs have calipers, and inside the calipers the pistons push the pads and clamp the disc. Now the pads will wear down quicker than the discs, but the discs will wear down quicker and get damaged if the pads are worn down, so metal to metal. So that's where you can hear it sometimes, but you don't want to let it go down to that. Prevention is better than cure. Now, in my experience, a good telltale sign that your pads are wearing down is that your fluid level drops, because your fluid level will drop if your pistons are being used more to clamp the pads more because they're thinner, and that's where the fluid drops. And then when you replace the pads, the fluids can come back up. So brakes and pads and discs, the pipes aren't perished, there's no leaks, are all really important things on a weekly basis. And you could replace the pads yourself quite simply. And remember, we are looking at introducing 6 weeks of maintenance, and I am looking also at the possibility of getting this on a live stream. So the 1 day a week bike maintenance, where we're going to be having them, I'm going to be looking at doing it on live stream. And at the moment, I can only talk to you about this, but I can't show you anything. But that's what we're looking at down the line. So it's almost like an online live stream bike maintenance. So AWA, that's it, 5 P. So prior preparation prevents poor. I like it. Fantastic. Sean Wright, I know this isn't to do with maintenance, but I'm doing my second CBT next week and had to do this Ride Safe online course and have had to have a Ride Safe certificate before my CBT. Is this a requirement? No, it is not. It is not compulsory. So who said that you had to? And yeah, but no, at the moment, you don't have to do that at all. Yeah, so that's what we're looking at doing. But yeah, brakes really are an important thing to keep on top of. And if you're suddenly hearing metal to metal, that means that you've not prevented it. It means that you're not doing your maintenance checks. All right. So if you keep on top of it, this can all be prevented. So that's brakes. Electrics, what we do on a weekly basis, I suppose, keep the lenses clean, keep the lights clean. And I suppose a question I want to ask you, just throw this question, ask all the CBT lads this and see if they get it. What would you do with your lights in the fog? There's no fog lights on a bike. Some of them there is, bigger bikes, new bikes, but generally there's no fog lights on a bike. So what would you do with your lights in the fog? Can anybody answer me that? Well, turn them on. Yes, well done. Most modern bikes now, the lights are always on, aren't they? So most modern bikes, the lights are on. Some bikes, you can turn them on and off. But we always advise you as a rider to keep your lights on all the time. So what would you do with your lights in the fog? And these are questions in the highway code. Mr. Smith is correct. What is the test answer? But to be honest with you, it is a real life answer as well. So what I would say is, Rob, appreciate electric maintenance when use it daily. What do you recommend when winter comes and bike used as much? Disconnect battery. Yeah, we'll come on to that in a minute. Electrics. Well, no, we can do it now, actually. I would say with that, you can use optimizers where you can keep it on trickle charge and that sort of thing. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I've had my bike in the garage 3 or 4 months and then get it out, it starts first time. So just to, I suppose, yeah, bike maintenance on the battery. You could disconnect it if you're not using it. Why not? But I know a lot of people use these little optimizers, and so it just keeps a little bit of a charge going into it when you're not using it. So with your light, with your headlight in the fog, you keep it on dip beam. You don't put it on main beam. Try it. Or you keep it on main beam. You don't put it on high beam. But when you're out in the fog, give it a go. But if you put your lights on high beam, what you'll find generally is that the fog lights up, so you see less. Okay, the particles light up, so you see less. But by all means, you go and try it. But in the highway code, the question is, you keep it on main beam. You don't put it on high beam. Yeah, so electrics, are we all happy with that? Any bulbs that need replacing, get them replaced. And the number plate, keep that clean, because the light's shining on the number plate. If the number plate's dirty, you're not going to be able to see it, are you? So brakes, I think that's, oh no, go back to the brakes. What about the brake? That's the disc brakes we discussed. What about the drum brake? Because some older bikes have drum brakes on the front. Even some more newer bikes have drum brakes on the back. The Honda CB125Fs have a disc on the front, drum on the back. So discs clamp in the caliper. The drum brake expands out. So they have shoes, but they're wear down again. Now, have we all seen the little wear indicator on a drum brake? There's a little wear indicator. So when you apply the back brake lever, there's a fixed arrow on the drum, and then the arrow of the brake, when it moves, and then when they align together, that could be an indication that the shoe needs to be repaired, or the brakes need replaced, or the brakes need to be adjusted. So keep an eye on that. It's called a drum brake wear indicator. Is it worth keeping spare bulbs under seat? Yeah, I mean, why not? I'm not saying it isn't. Any vibration though, you give them a break. But yeah, if you can keep them on you, great. I mean, to be honest, we don't have bulbs go very often, but I'm not saying they never go, because they do. But yeah, why not? If you can, if you've got the facility to, why not? So brakes and electrics, suspension. What weekly checks are we looking on suspension? I suppose a more visual, fork seals, suspension. Hey, go back to the brakes again. Come on, Robert, get your head in gear. Brake fluid reservoirs. So front brake fluid reservoir on the handlebars, rear brake fluid reservoir if the rear brake is a disc, somewhere on the side under the seat. Make sure the level is between the minimum and maximum. Yeah, remember, if your fluid level is going down, check for leaks. If the fluid level is going down, it's a good indication that the brake pads are wearing thin, because those pistons are being used more. The pistons are being used more, the fluid level drops down. Okay. Electrics, suspension. Yeah, so maybe a closer is it worth keeping spare bulbs under seat? Yeah, good. Rapton, finest RJH neck warmer. There you go. I knew the neck warmer had another use. I couldn't think what it was. But yeah, wrap up your bulbs. Some never change your fluids. Nope. Some never do. Now, suspension, fork seals, springs was discussed. Just go into a bit more detail. Make sure that the suspensions are in good order. Yeah. BST tyres. So weekly then, what are you going to look on your tyres weekly? So you'd certainly check the pressure weekly. So where do you get the fluid? Where do you get the brake pressure from? How do you know what brake pressure to put in your tyres? Yes, Dave, don't spill your brake fluid. Nasty stuff. So where would you find your tyre pressures. Yes, so Paul, it is in the manual. It could be written on the side of the tyre, and it could be on the swing arm on one of those stickers. So there's various places you can find it. If you can't find it in any of those, ask Google. All right, and Google will find you. But when you check your tyre pressure, buy yourself your own pump. Don't go to the garage where everybody uses them, because how accurate do you think they are? Not. So get your own foot pump or whatever and get it done like that. But check your tyre pressure weekly, because they can lose a bit of pressure. What's your views on tyre pressure systems? We used to have well, many years ago, we used to sell Ultra Seal valves that used to go on the valve, a bit like a dust cap, and it used to have green, amber, and red. Have you seen them? And obviously, the green is inflated correctly. Amber means that it's lost a little bit, and red, it needs to be looked at and some air put in it. To be honest with you, we have not sold those for a number of years because we just didn't find them reliable. But I am talking 15 to 20 years ago, and we've not really looked at them since. Is that what you meant by pressure systems? Metal valve caps can seize, yeah. So it's, yeah, I think just rubber dust caps, check your pressures every week. But general condition, watch that tread depth. You can get a tread depth gauge. The minimum legal limit is 1 millimeter. So make sure you've got minimum 1 millimeter. On a 50cc, if there's anybody watching that's on a 50cc, can be visible tread only. That's a legal limit. But what I would say is stick to your 1 millimeter. When you know what tyre tread does in the rain, disperses the water, less tread doesn't do that. So minimum of 1 millimeter. General condition, and yeah, lumps, bulges, cuts, tears, and so on. To be honest with you, Fritz, I wouldn't. From my experience, I wouldn't. I just stick to a regular black dust cap and check your pressures weekly. I mean, you know, it is the only contact you've got on the road is the tyres. Needs to be spot on, mate. Tyres. Chain, BST chain. So what are you looking out for on weekly on a chain? We've discussed the lubrication. So what are we looking at weekly, going into a bit more detail with the chain? So what would we think about the chain then, ladies and gents? Tension, lubrication, yes. So lubrication, there was a question came up earlier about lubrication, and you can't say you have to lubricate it every week or every 2 weeks or every day. It just depends on how you're using your bike, how often you're using your bike, what are the weather conditions like when you're using your bike, and take into all these factors, and what type of bike, what type of chain, take into all of these accounts. And, you know, but visually, you can tell if you need to lubricate it. It's not, if you have to lubricate it every couple of days, it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's just how you're using it and the conditions. So lubricate it as much as it needs to be lubricated. I've got a really good, going back to the tyres, a really good videos on the tyres and a puncture repair on the tyres in the description below. But I've got a really good description, a video on description about the chain maintenance. Now a new chain, yeah, tension, everything, but you can start lubricating it as and when. But, you know, after a few months, you might want to clean the chain before you lubricate it. So I've actually got it where I'm stripping the chain, I'm cleaning the chain and preparing it all before I lubricate it. So Chain maintenance, ultimately you need to keep it well lubricated, you need to keep it adjusted. How you adjust it, to what tension, read the manual, read the swing arm, and do it accordingly. But the tension is really, really important. And when you are adjusting the tension, make sure the rear wheel is aligned. And I've got that great video, shows you how you check that alignment, because when you're bringing the wheel back to tighten the chain, you need to make sure it's coming back equally on both sides. That's what's called rear wheel alignment. If it's not, then you're going to have wear on the tire issues, uneven, and control problems potentially. Yeah, links. So keep it all clean. Keep it well tensioned. Keep it aligned, and your chain, you can prolong the life of it if you look after it. And when you're hosing your bike down, if you're hosing your bike down once a week, whether you do a jet wash or whatever you do, don't just leave the chain wet. Wipe it around with a rag, because you don't want that wet getting in. So wipe it around. Once you've hosed it all down, wipe it around with an old rag, and then spray a bit of GT85 or something on it, just to stop the water getting. Lubricate it. Consensus on best brand chain oiler. Well, there's the only one I think I would recommend is the Scott Oiler. I think they're fantastic. I have used them in the past. I don't use one now, but yeah, Scott Oiler is probably number one, isn't it? So chain oil. So how would you check your oil levels? Always, I suppose, make sure that the bike is in an upright position. And make sure, because then the levels are going to be straight, aren't they? If you've got your bike on a side stand, the levels are not going to be straight. Again, read the manual. Some like the engine to be hot, checking the oil level. Leave it for 5 minutes. Don't screw the dipstick in or whatever. So check your manual, but you need to ultimately make sure the oil is between the minimum and maximum. So make sure the bike's in that right position, and the brake fluid reservoirs. So if you haven't got any oil, you need to be topping it up, don't you? But oil is really important. If you're running a bike without oil, then you're going to be potentially putting additional wear and tear, and ultimately, as somebody said, seizing up if you're not careful. Steer petrol, yeah, lotion motion, jungle juice. You're not going to get far without petrol, are you? And yeah, going back to the oil, I suppose, make sure when you do check the oil, make sure you put the filler back in. Some have a dipstick, some have a sight glass. So it depends on your bike, but make sure it's upright. Make sure you put it back in, so that you don't want it leaking out if you haven't put the cap back in. Petrol, yeah. Petrol gauge, don't rely on them. Take the cap off, have a look in. If you tap the tank, you sometimes tell whether it's hollow, but yeah, best thing to do is take the petrol cap off and have a look in. Petrol, then what's steering? So steering, yeah, so free movement left to right, full lock to lock, no cable snagging. And one thing I also do on a weekly basis is just apply the front brake and put a bit of pressure onto the bike, push it forward, and just see if you can get a bit of movement in the steering column, the head bearing, because they can become loose. Might need tighten up, might be replacing. But what you don't want is any free play in the head bearing. So push it up against a wall, apply the front brake and push it. If you're getting any free play, any knocking, then that would need attention as well. Remember, prevention is better than cure. And think the way I look at it as well, your bike is an investment. And if you look after your bike, when you want to sell it, if you look after it, you'll get maximum money for it. So, look after it. But it is going to keep you safe, isn't it? So if you don't look after your bike, if it's not roadworthy, you're going to be putting yourself at risk. So those are my sort of sort of top tips on bike maintenance, nothing too stressful, daily checks and weekly checks. So, you can refer back to this. And as I said, what I am looking at over the next few weeks, months, is introducing at the school some bike maintenance classes. And what I will be looking at the possibility of live streaming them, so you can actually see a lot more in detail about what's going on. That's the plan. Whether we pull it off, watch this space. So just about an hour and 10 minutes. I think I've pretty much covered most of what I wanted to. So what I would say, everybody, is thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Anybody got any comments about what they'd like to see next week? I'll do a few more live streams again. I can rustle up some live streams. It's not a problem of my own subjects. But if there's anything in particular you think would be good to discuss on a live stream, let me know. I can do something like that. But yeah, I think I am just about done. So I hope you all have a good weekend, and thanks for watching. And I will bid you all a good night. Okay, so speak to you soon.